Happy Sunday, everybody. About to go to the family for a pre-Memorial Day, I guess, picnic, in a way. We're going to have a cookout. That's really what it is. Enjoying hearing what your plans are. Some of y'all are just staying in. Some of y'all are having a barbecue as well. Going to read a little bit more of the Faith of Elvis here. It's Sunday, right? So let's get started with that. Thank you to your subscribers, members, those that have left super thanks, those that have bought the merchandise, the Prissy B, Should Lose Her Presley name, the stuff that's below. There'll be other merchandise as well, but those are the ones I've trademarked. All right, on December 3rd, 1968, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, NBC viewers tuned in to witness something they hadn't seen in years, a live Elvis performance. Colonel Parker had approached NBC over a year earlier to negotiate a Christmas special. He knew Elvis was wanting to get back to doing a live music show, and this was the way to do it without organizing a live concert. The Colonel had come to the network with specific ideas about the special, and Elvis, of course, balked at the thought of doing just a Christmas Carol-themed show. However, Steve Binder, the director, said, let's do it in a different way. His idea was to make Elvis more relevant musically. After much discussion between Elvis, Steve, Colonel Parker, producer Bob Finkel, and NBC, they all finally agreed on an approach. The special was officially titled Singer Presents Elvis and showcased the King performing in 3 scenarios: in the round with a small acoustic band, in the round by himself, and in staged musical numbers. Which one, which section of the show was your favorite? Just curious. There was a lot of value in having him on television, but the special was also an experiment to see if he still had the Elvis magnetism he once had. Could he draw a crowd of television viewers? Well, the answer, obviously, and we know now, was a clear yes. The program was a massive hit and became a turning point in Elvis's career. The program, of course, became known as the 68 Comeback Special, but Elvis never liked that title. I remember one time when we were at the gates of Graceland and Elvis was signing autographs, a lady said, "I loved your comeback special." Elvis replied, "I don't know what you mean by a comeback, honey. I never went anywhere." Indeed. Not only had Elvis not gone anywhere, but his presence was growing even stronger. The NBC special showed Elvis and millions of others that he still had it, that there was still a vast market for his live performances. Where was the most obvious place to start doing a live performance? Well, Vegas, naturally. Elvis had flopped in Vegas before, so there was a bit of concern, because back in '56, Colonel Parker had set him up in Vegas, hoping to get him some national attention. But in the 1950s, Vegas was still Sinatra's town. Fly me to the moon and let me sing up or swing up there in the stars. That's a good thought. Maybe Elvis could sing, "Oh, let me know what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars." I wonder if he would have ever sang that. He didn't. He sang a little bit of Witchcraft. And then Sinatra sang "Love Me Tender." In other words, please be true. In other words, baby, kiss me. Anyways, I'd love to hear Elvis sing that song. It's nice, Billy Stanley's writing this with Kent Sanders. It's a well-written book. It flows very nicely. Okay, so, but in the 50s, Vegas was still Sinatra's town. They still loved Sinatra, but the world had changed since then. So 13 years later, in '69, could Elvis make it work? He did. He not only made it work, it was a stunning success. Elvis booked 2 shows a night for a month at the New Hilton. No performer had ever done that before. He set the bar so high for other entertainers that most of them just couldn't keep up with it. But, as Billy said, that was typically the case with Elvis. No matter what he did, he was usually the first entertainer to do it. He was the first huge music star to transition in movies, the first to wear lots of jewelry, which was a trend that was later adopted by rap artists, and the first to do an acoustic set on a small stage in the round, decades before MTV began its Unplugged series. Elvis could never rest on his laurels. He could never be content doing the same thing year after year. See, he had too much love for his fans and for the talent that God gave him just to stand still. So Billy continues. The second half of the 1960s was a challenging time for Elvis. He was tired and creatively frustrated. Even though he wanted to be done with making movies before he honored his contracts, of course, while still making plans to go back to live concerts. Elvis often prayed for the supernatural strength and guidance that the prophet Isaiah talked about in Isaiah 40:28 through 31. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is an everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even the youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those with hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles, and they will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Elvis was getting ready to soar again, personally and professionally. But unlike an eagle, he did not take to the skies alone. He preferred the company of his friends and his family, and was willing to do whatever was necessary to keep them safe. That takes us into chapter 12, which is Stand By Me. So we'll read a little bit of that. I don't have a ton of time to read today, but I did want to get this. I've been meaning to do it almost every Sunday. And of course, Sundays, it's been so full of family time that I haven't been able to break away because I've just been busy with them. And I know Billy understands, and y'all understand, but I'm glad we're getting back to this. So chapter 12, Stand By Me. Most of the people who worked for Elvis went to him when they had a problem of some kind. Whatever the situation was, he would fix it. He was always the one who took care of people, and he would be the first that was willing to help. However, it bothered him that most of the people in his circle always seemed to want something from him. That's why I was careful to never ask him for money or any material items. The only thing I ever asked Elvis to give me was his advice. That's a good brother right there. I was just like any other young man who has questions, doubts, and insecurities. As my big brother, Elvis was my go-to source for wisdom. He had it all together, and he was my hero. Once I asked him how to deal with bullies. He said, first off, Billy, don't go looking for a fight. Nobody ever truly wins a fight. You might be standing up at the end, and the other guy is lying on the ground, but that doesn't mean you won. Anytime people get into a fight, well, that's a loss right there. But if it comes down to it, don't ever walk away from a fight. I objected, but the Bible says turn the other cheek. He said, well, if you can always try to. You can tell the other person, we don't need to do this. We don't have to fight. Try to talk your way out of it first. But if you throw some punch and you get hit, don't just lie there and let somebody beat on you. Just fight back, Billy. I was in awe at his wisdom and confidence. And he continued, you see, Billy, there's a time to be a lamb and a time to be a lion. You'll know when to be the lion. Elvis had to deal with bullies too. One time he told us, you see, when I was growing up, I got bullied a lot because I wore my hair and clothes different than anybody else. There was always a kid who thought, if I beat this guy up, I'll impress my girlfriend. I know about bullies, Billy. I know, something like that. Elvis was not kidding. He not only knew about bullies, but he also knew how to handle them personally. Elvis gave me a first-hand lesson one year when I was in high school. This next little section is going to conclude what I can read today to you. I wanted to make sure I found some time to read this. Billy said, one time I was dating a girl who had broken up with her boyfriend named James. He was a big defensive lineman who had gone off to college to play football. Every time I went out with the girl and he was back home, well, he would follow us around. My brother Rick told Elvis about this, and one night we were sitting at the table finishing dinner. He said, so Billy, I hear you got a bully problem. What? Yeah, Rick told me. I looked at Rick as if to say, thanks a lot, Rick. Elvis continued, I hear this guy's following you around, and it sounds like he's a big football player. Yeah, he's just a big blowhard, Elvis. Don't worry about it. I can take care of this. No, I'm going to take care of this. I can't stand a bully picking on one of my brothers. Where's this guy hang out? I was trying to think of something to say to Elvis to keep from getting involved, and I said, we don't need to do this, Elvis. Thank you, but that's okay. Elvis said, no, we're going to take care of this tonight. Go get your car. Well, Red, Sonny, and Lamar were there. Red and Sonny West were cousins who'd been bodyguards for Elvis since the 50s. Lamar Fike was a friend and a longtime employee. He'd also been with him from the beginning. And all three performed in a variety of duties for Elvis. You guys go get the limo, Elvis told him. Billy, bring your car around front. Well, at the time, I was driving a 1957 Chevy, which I brought out to the front. He got in the car with me and said, where's this guy hang out? There's a place in Whitehaven, South Memphis, where we used to cruise back and forth. A McDonald's and a Crystal restaurant sat about a block away from each other, and we would go cruising in that area. Elvis said, go to McDonald's first. Can you imagine Elvis saying, McDonald's? I'll go to McDonald's, Billy. That's pretty cool. Okay. That's why I love Billy and his conversations that he had with Elvis here. It was nighttime when we set out on this little adventure. And as we pulled up, people could hear us before they would recognize us, since my car was a hot rod. Sure enough, a few of my friends were standing there, and when they saw the car, I slowed down and they started walking toward it. They saw who was sitting with me and they said, hey Elvis, how you doing, bud? Elvis replied, hey, nice to meet you guys. We exchanged high fives as Elvis sat there with me. One of the guys said, what are y'all doing? And Elvis said, we're looking for James. My friend replied, well, he was just here a few minutes ago. He might be down there at Crystal's. I looked at the guy as if to say, thanks a lot, buddy. Elvis said, well, it's nice to meet you guys. We're going to head down there. So we drove down to the popular burger place where the same thing happened. But this time the kids hanging out said, well, he left. We don't know where he went. We started heading back towards Graceland. Now, there was an Ace Hardware store parking lot between McDonald's and Crystal's, and we thought it was cool to sit on the lot with our parking lights on to let people know we were hanging out. And as we drove by, Elvis said, you know any of the guys over there? Yeah, pull in there. I thought, oh great. I pulled in and a few friends came running up to the car. They had never seen Elvis riding around with me, and they were surprised to see him sitting there. And they said, hey Elvis, how you doing? Great to meet you. Elvis replied, hey guys, how's it going? Nice to meet you guys. One of the buddies said, what are y'all doing? I gotta go. It's time to go. I'm not gonna get to this end of that story, but it'll be continued, okay? I'm going to read it for you, and we're gonna find out how Elvis dealt with this bully named James. And not Hamburger James, I don't think, right? But a bully named James trying to bully Billy. TCB TLC, till next time, this is Joe Sins Rare Elvis Photos. Love y'all very much. Happy Sunday.